Good morning, welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be going over the latest models that will be in Shadowlands. Now just stick around and enjoy the video. Okay, so for starters, let's just start off by saying that some new updated models for different types of characters that will be returning in Shadowlands have just been released, and we're going to be going over them right now. Now starting off at number 1, we have BOLVAR 4 Dragon. Now I personally love his updated model. It's a lot more high res, and dude, seriously, the actual skulls and everything just spills lich towards you, but because of the flames on him, it's not so scourge like. It's kind of like a new take on the scourge. Seriously, I just look at this and I'm just like, this is OP as hell. And I must admit, all the old style scourge armor mixed with that undying flame is just insane when it comes towards that iconic character of BOLVAR. And yeah, I can't wait to see what he's actually going to be moving like inside the actual game. Now, looking back at the cinematic once before where BOLVAR actually took up the mantle, he is a lot more high definition now, and I must admit this is a definite step up in the right direction as well. So good on you, Blizz, for updating this character model instead of keeping it the old way. Along with that, there has been a updated version of his fighting mace, and I must admit this actually looks pretty damn awesome. Back on the cinematic for Shadowlands where Sylvanas takes on BOLVAR, we actually see him using more or less a scourge based attack with this mace. Now this is a two-handed mace, and the big ass skull that's in the middle of it was originally blue in energy. Now it is like the undying flame inside of him. He actually goes rather well with BOLVAR'S latest model. So they've done a very good job on the way everything is done. And it kind of reminds me of the model of Light's Vengeance from what Arthas used back before the purging of Stratham and all of that jazz. Kind of gives me an idea of more or less a undead feeling Light's Vengeance. So I must say that is BOLVAR and his new updated mace model coming in at number 1. Aside from that, let's get on to number 2, which is the return of KEL'THUS Sunstrider. Now obviously we killed him in BC, and he is actually going to be back in the game. Now personally, looking at his corrupted form at this moment in time, it looks pretty damn awesome, I must say, because he's still got the energy orbs around him, which, if you remember, if you go back, even if you go to the eye right now and take him on, he still has the green orbs around him, and they've kind of done this in the same aesthetic wise, but a more updated version of that. Now obviously he's got the tombstone on his back, and along with that it looks more or less like blood orbs instead of like arcane energy around him as the orbs of power that he is controlling. So that is kind of cool. It keeps the same character model style from before, but now updated it for Shadowlands. And I must admit, he has still got some sort of remembrance in his armor and actual just how he's actually presented overall, which I do thoroughly love. Which brings us on to the actual ordinary KEL'THUS Sunstrider form, and that still keeps the 3 blood orbs or blood energy orbs, whatever you want to call it, and the armor for this is insane. Now if you remember, this does not have a tombstone. This is more or less a throwback towards BC where he was actually wearing just his robes, but the robes are a lot more slimmer now and a better fit. And I must admit, I like these shoulder pads. If he is able to be a raid boss and we are able to kill him, let me have those shoulder pads for my mage, because they will look badass as hell, because they are some serious shoulder pads. Aside from that, that is KEL'THUS Sunstrider making his way back into the actual universe. Here's something that I wanted to actually talk about for a while since I've seen this, and that is KEL'THUZAD. Now KEL'THUZAD is making an appearance. Last time we actually saw him, we killed him in Naxxramas, and I didn't realise that KEL'THUZAD was officially dead. Now, I always thought that a Lich has the ability of being able to use his phylactery to come back, and none of us actually destroyed his phylactery. It could be the case where KEL'THUZAD is actually waiting for his phylactery to respawn him back into the world, but we never know. When you actually want to summon a Lich back from the dead, their phylactery, roll a dice, if it hits it, they come back in 2 turns, 3 turns, all that stuff, all that good jazz. Depends on what game you're actually playing for the Lich. Now, aside from this, KEL'THUZAD's making his way back. Still the same colour scheme, mind you, and still the remembrance of like his chains all around him. I want to see what happens with the lore with him. I guess he will be with all of the other Scourge type guys and all that jazz. I'm pretty certain that if Arthas gets to see him, that would be a pretty cool reunion in Shadowlands. Arthas, the actual Arthas, and KEL'THUZAD actually facing off. That would be pretty cool. Actually, I want to see that. That would be pretty damn awesome. Let's make it happen. I want to see them fight to the bitter end. Now, making a return from BC, and that is Lady Vash. Now, in the Serpent Shrine Cavern, she is the last boss and also drops an awesome battle pet. She is now making an appearance back from the dead. Now, judging by what she actually is a Naga, and that being the case, she is now an undead version of a Naga, and as you can tell, she's, instead of having a slivery skin type-esque serpent's tail, it's now a bony, rotted, decayed thing, and then her arms and everything. She's basically undead. She is undead. Now I do like the actual idea of her putting skulls as her shoulder pads instead of like kind of like the old school magey ones that they used for her in the raid. And I would love to see her as an actual raid boss, or at least a dungeon boss to take on, because she was a formidable foe back in BC, and I must admit, it's kind of nice to actually see some of these old guys coming back into the plane of existence once again. Now, making a return, as we all wanted to cry when Legion, was when Ysera died. She is now making a return, and she still kind of looks exactly the same, more or less. There's not much I can really say about Ysera overall, but she looks pretty damn awesome. I know a loon actually took her spirit off into the world, and actually has sprung into my mind about why and how did Ysera get over there if a loon took her spirit and turned it into a constellation in the sky. I would love to see why and how her spirit has made it into Shadowlands if a loon took her spirit and made it into the constellation. I would like to know a little bit more lore about all of this stuff, and at the moment I am just going to be speculating like crazy and see what happens. But there is a lot of lore around Ysera at this moment in time. I do like the updated model. There are a few slight changes to her character model, but overall I would just want to know about the lore about Ysera making her return. Coming in at number 7, we have Sylvanas Windrunner. Obviously, she has now got a new plane of existence and a new updated model. Now, this is going more along the lines of the Jailer-esque style armor with all the spikes and slices and all that stuff, and definitely a Sylvanas trait going forward. Now, we don't see her with her bow, but I'm guessing her bow will still be around for actually playing. And I must admit, I like her armor set very much. I would like to see something along the lines of that for hunters, so hunters could get hold of like this type of armor set for their characters, because you could definitely tell that Sylvanas is like a literal dark ranger at this moment in time. And yeah, I like the updated model. I like how they've changed the facial features, added the shading into her face, and overall she's now got pure bloody eyes. If I can just make out, they look like to be tears of blood, and that is pretty damn awesome. It's like she's ready for war. Like this time, instead of just being like dressed as like an assassin, she's more built towards going fully into combat, and I love the aesthetics of the new jailer stuff moving forward. Now we actually get to see the new model, which is the Arbiter. Now the Arbiter hasn't really popped for me. I'm not really too keen on it. I'm guessing they're going with the old adage of less is more, and where I do like that idea, I'm still not a fan of it. Sorry, it's not my cup of tea. See, I'm going to be interacting in Shadowlands with the Arbiter quite a lot, but it doesn't actually appeal to me overall. Kind of gives me the idea of more along the lines of a priesty-esque vibe, so that could be something pretty cool. But the one thing that I would like to know is, where is her legs? Like, seriously, where is her legs? I know she's probably a spirit or something, but where is her legs? And aside from that, there tends to be some form of eye which is inside of her chest. Now, I do like this aesthetic, and I would like to know why that's there. A massive eye in her chest. It seems to be coming out, it seems to be like a hole going straight through her chest and out through the other side. So we could see something along those lines to do with like anima or something, I don't know. But that being the case, the Arbiter, not overly too impressed with the aesthetic look. Now making his appearance back into the world, and that is Hakkar, the Soul Flayer. I love Hakkar. Just so you know, I'm going to be exceedingly biased. Hakkar is OP as hell. He is the blood god lower, and he is everything right with the trolls. The dude is amazing and has been around ever since vanilla. And I must admit, I love the updated model for Hakkar. Now, the old school version of Hakkar's model was okay, but with this high-res one, it looks OP as hell. It's still got like it's still keeping the old school versions of the colour scheme for Hakkar, but they've increased the textures on this model and increased the actual gold plating around the shoulders. Also, Hakkar actually seems to have like some sort of soul shard within his chest. Now, this is kind of looking like an actual type of theme, so I want to know why the holes in the chest, and why does it look like either an orb or a crystal that is within their chests. So we got to work this one out. But aside from that, I must admit, this is an amazing new upgrade for Hakkar. Love the armor set that he's actually wearing with the shoulder pads and everything like that. Must admit, Hakkar looks badass as hell. Now coming in for the next one, we have the Winter Queen. Now I'm guessing that she is something to do with a dungeon, or could be an NPC for kind of like the Scourgy-esque people, or even the Night Fae. I'm guessing, I'm going to border along the lines of she's going to be along with the Night Fae just because of the horns and the kind of more fairy looking overall. But aside from that, the Winter Queen it's a pretty cool model, I guess. Not much texture on the facial features, but I'm guessing they're going with less is more on that one. But when it comes to her garments, more texture is there, so they've spent a lot more time working on her actual armor than opposed to her actual face, so give this appearance, of course. But yeah, I would like to see what she is going to be going forward. I'm guessing she's going to be one of the main quest givers from the Night Fae. Now, holy crap, this is the one that I wanted to talk about since I saw it. We are seeing the other troll lower of death, and we've already seen one that is Boam Samdi. Now we are seeing Mue'zala. Now Mue'zala, going back, is another troll lower of death, and we've had speculations about him for the last few years, and we are finally seeing his in-game model in the world. Now he kind of reminds me of a troll berserker-esque thing, because he's like hench as hell. Kind of just reminds me that he is like a withered husk of his former self. Yeah, it's I like the details on the horns. Kind of looks like there's little growths all up and down his horns and everything like that. I do love that. And it kind of reminds me of someone who has just come through the old Amani and Garabushi and all of those troll empires, and he was around right at the beginning. It kind of gives me that he survived for this long through all of that and now is here. I totally love this new model. Reminds me of a berserker troll overall, and I thoroughly love Mue'zala. I wonder what type of role he will play going forward. Will he interact with Zul'jin? I have no clue, but I would like to see Sen'jin, which is Vol'jin's father, who died against the Sea Witch. Coming in at this moment in time, we have the MUEH'ZALA, and this is a character for one of the jailers. Now, this isn't the actual jailer, and this is more along the lines of just an NPC that is going to be along with there. As you can tell with the MUEH'ZALA, he has a hole in his chest once again, common theme with all of this new stuff. And this one does not have any form of orb or shard within his chest. This is more along the lines of he looks more like a hollow than anything from Bleach. If you remember Bleach, hollows have a hole in their chest and they're just completely crazy as hell. They're overpowered is what they are, but that's not the point. He obviously is going with all of the different spikes and shards and all that stuff. You can definitely tell he is aligned with Sylvanas just by his armor set alone. And along with this, I like the aesthetic of the little gems or spirit essences that are all dotted around his armor. Now, I must admit, these guys are probably going to be hitting quite hard, and at this moment in time, I don't think he is the actual jailer. I'm guessing he will get revealed later on, but I'm guessing this is more along the lines of a teaser than anything. Coming into our next one, which is a Dark Paragon KYRIAN, and yeah, I must admit, it's a pretty cool model. It's purple instead of blue. Yeah, obviously it's going to be like a dark-esque themed KYRIAN, and yeah, it's all right. I'm not too keen on it overall, and yeah, it's okay for what it's worth. I'm not going to complain all that much. Now, judging by the helmets and all that stuff, they seem to be along the lines of like the same aesthetic as like the Arbiter or something along those lines, and doesn't really pop to me in all that honesty. These Dark Paragon ones are not that I'm not that keen on. Now, moving on to the next one is a KYRIAN More, and these ones are aligned obviously with the Jailer and the MUEH'ZALA overall. Now, these are KYRIANs that are aligned with the More, and they look dope as hell. Obviously, I'm a fan of skulls and spikes and shields and anything Scourge-like. Yeah, definitely it's an amazing artistic expression on this part. Obviously, we still have the wings of a KYRIAN, and yeah, I love the helmet. It reminds me of the Helm of Domination, and yeah, it's the spikes and shields remind me very much of Scourge-esque items. Now, I would like to see what is going to happen with all of these guys going forward. Are we going to be aligned with these guys in particular, so anyone within the More, or are we going to be beating the crap out of them? I need to know who is my opponent, please. One of my favourite builds, and that is the KYRIAN female model. Now, I like this one because it gives you some reverence towards angel or angelic features and textures, and thoroughly enjoy this one overall. Now, obviously, they've definitely taken a lot more time in crafting these models than any of the others, and I must admit, these ones are definitely pretty cool. They've taken the inspiration of a spirit healer of the blue-esque skin version, and then added a load of angelic features to go along with this, such as wings, and then with the coloration, it's the same versioning, and it kind of reminds me of the old school tiers. It kind of reminds me of the old school tier 1 or tier 2 for priest, with all of the different types of angelic features that go along with that. So with like the staff and then the wings on the shoulder pads and all that jazz. It's really cool to actually see this type of stuff in the game and these types of new models, and I can't wait to see them in the game. Blizz, give me the alpha right now. I want it. But aside from that, we are going over to the KYRIAN males, and these ones are actually a lot less. I don't really care for these ones that much, whereas the KYRIAN females looked pretty damn awesome. They actually reminded me of a spirit healer. These ones just seem very, very stoic and not very eye-catching, so to speak. Now these ones just kind of remind me of a Titan came up with a armor set for people with blue skin. Yeah, it's okay. I'm not too keen on the helmet, to be honest, and the shoulder pads, and pretty much most of it. I preferred the female version models, but with the male models, they kind of, you can get that they're sentries on guardians and all that stuff, like you shall not pass and all that stuff, but really doesn't spring overly too great for me. Now, jumping into the next person returning, and that is a KYRIAN version of Uther the Lightbringer. Now, Uther the Lightbringer obviously died back in the day against Kael'thas, and now we have a KYRIAN version of him, and he is now blue. I would prefer if he wasn't blue, kept his same skin color and all that stuff that he did beforehand, because a lot of the others that have died that are coming through, they didn't turn blue. So I want to know either some lore about how he did that, or it's I'm not going to take it seriously enough, because that's just yeah. If Uther is not going to be explained on how he actually became a KYRIAN, then I'm not going to bother even jumping into the lore for that. But aside from that, he looks pretty damn awesome. Still the same type of armor set that the KYRIANs were actually wearing, and overall looks pretty damn awesome. He needs his mace, however. You need to remember to put that in, otherwise I will cry. And that is that. That is the end of what we had to talk about the new character models that have just been released. I must admit, it is amazing. I'm loving it. And other than that, guys, I am super hyped for Shadowlands, and I shall see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow.